I thought I knew how to propagate Scindapsus until I tried this. My success rate tripled, and I'm going to show you exactly how. No more propagation fails, rotting roots, and balding. Yep, you heard me, balding. I'll show you exactly what I mean. Let's fix it all now. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step the easiest way to propagate Scindapsus for the highest success rate or best results in the shortest possible time. My recommended method has only 5 steps and utilizes the cheapest medium. Watch this reel next. Okay, so let's get into these 5 steps next. For my recommended method of propagation, specifically for Scindapsus, the cheapest medium to use is water. The function of the lacquer that you're seeing in this frame is primarily to just hold the cuttings in place and prevent them from falling out the dish. Water alone gets the job done perfectly, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. The first thing or the first step in my method is making the right cut. Using a clean cutting tool, I cut 1 inch on either side of the node. The nice thing about Scindapsus is that it roots anywhere on the stem or vine. Giving yourself 1 inch of wiggle room on either side of the node allows for, if in the event there's any rot, you can snip that bit off and there's still enough stem for rooting to occur. Taking cuttings from a healthy mother plant increases your success rate, but in any event, I'll show you how to give them the best chance. Here's a quick demonstration of a simple cut, 1 inch on either side of the node. By the way, the node is the area where the leaf is actually emerging or where your roots are going to emerge from first. And here's a pro tip coming up. In my experience, I find the tip cut of the vine, which is the youngest leaf growing on the vine, has the lowest success rate. That's this piece on the vine. To ensure rooting, instead of taking a single node cut, I take a double node cut. If there's a leaf, I remove the leaf, and this second node is going to do all the work. Step 2, and this applies to every single propagation that I'm making, whether it's for Scindapsus, Philodendron, Monstera, for every wound or cut that I make on a plant, I always apply cinnamon powder. Besides speeding up callousing, cinnamon powder is antifungal and antibacterial, so it helps to prevent rot by creating a protective barrier that prevents infection. It's also a rooting stimulant, and I'm coming up to my first myth to debunk shortly. Additionally, it's natural, so it's non toxic and safe to use around your family and pets, and it's actually a pest deterrent. It prevents fungus, gnats, ants, and other small pests, and in general, it just speeds up the healing process. The myth that I mentioned before is that you need rooting hormone to speed up or encourage root growth, and that is just an additional expense. I have tried this side by side, and there's absolutely no difference between professional rooting hormone and cinnamon powder. Proof of this is coming up at the end of this video when I take you all through a tour of my entire Scindapsus collection where I've employed this method of propagation time and time again and have been rehabbing my plants since the move, and they're all thriving again, so I can't wait to show you all the success that I've been experiencing. The final steps are to simply place in water and add to a humidity chamber, ensuring that the cutting will receive bright light. Frequently, I mix cuttings, it really doesn't matter to me. And the humidity chambers that I use, I will link below in the description for y'all if y'all want to use it. They are really such a great propagation tool because they really speed the process up, I would say, by double. More pro tips and my final myth to debunk is coming next. For my international viewers, here are some quick hacks for you. During winter, I know the lighting situation can get pretty dim. Employing grow lights from some popular brands like Soltech, Russo lights, or even Barinas can really help increase your success rate for propagating Scindapsus. Also, using heating pads can ensure a stable temperature, nice warm conditions to again further speed up your propagation rate. Why I prefer to propagate in water is not only because it's the cheapest, but I can see the root progression clearly and I can monitor for rot if it arises. I use water for all different types of plants. My collection is quite diverse. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that. And here up on screen is my micans that I'm showing you has successfully rooted in water as well. Here's another myth, which is to change out your water frequently or refresh your water. Let me explain why this does not make sense. When you take a cutting, naturally it begins to produce rooting hormones called auxins. Another reason why you don't need to buy artificial rooting hormones. The cutting does all the work for you. When you refresh your water or switch it out completely, you're actually dumping all the hormones, and that slows the rooting process. And this brings me to one of my favorite hacks, which is to reuse propagation water. Because it already has auxins in it, it means that when you put fresh cuttings in there, it's going to stimulate root growth even faster. Additionally, alongside hormones or auxins being present in your propagation water, the water may develop beneficial microbes that also help the cuttings root more effectively, almost like a mini ecosystem. And lastly, why I prefer water to propagate in is because I don't have to check for moisture because it's always wet. So that's one less thing to do. And yes, please. Another pro tip is to add Super Thrive to your water to boost resilience while the cutting is rooting and make it more robust for when it's time to pot up. Now that you know how to successfully propagate Scindapsus, I'm going to show you how to ensure that your propagations thrive and don't die off upon potting up. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that I'm going to show you all how to prevent your plants from balding, and this is exactly what I mean. When there are no leaves on the top of the pot, technically they're bald. So this is where your Scindapsus propagations that, if you're like me, I always have them going, just come in so handy to fill in all of these gaps. This Scindapsus Silvery Ann has gone through hell since we moved, and I'm finally getting around to giving it a facelift. And this is why I like to have propagations on hand. I'm always taking cuttings. I'm always ensuring that I have a backup pretty much for my mother plants, or even, getting another mother plant going. So in the event that my original plant dies off, this again, is the benefit of knowing how to propagate them. Potting tips and tricks for survival are coming up next. So in this case, because there's so much balding, I'm just gonna empty out the top layer of my soil mixer, just like this, into a tray to give myself a lot more working space as opposed to using my Cora that you frequently see me use in my plant chores videos. So I just dumped out the topsoil and revealed parts of the stems, and I'm going to cover that back, so hopefully those exposed stems will also root for me later on, hopefully. But I'm just going to add the cuttings in just like this, ensuring that the roots touch the soil and are spread probably like 1 inch apart from each other, and securing them as best as I could, so that the foliage doesn't get covered in soil when I go to backfill. Later on in the video, I'll show you how I root those bare stems without making a cut. Okay, so at this point, I think I'm going to stop adding cuttings here just to give the new shoots space to emerge. I'm just making my final checks to make sure everything is secured, and I'm going to backfill using the original soil first. By the way, all the tools that I use will be linked in the description below. I am an Amazon associate, so any purchases via my link, I do gain a small commission at no additional charge to you. And for y'all who've been shopping already, thank you so much for supporting my channel. But yeah, after adding the original soil, I am just making sure that all the roots, especially for the new props, are covered. And once I see exposed roots, like right here, I'm going to go ahead and backfill using my aerated mix that you're going to see me do coming up next. So just like this, I'm going to grab some fresh aerated mix. I get my mix from Utopia Gardens. I'll put her contact information in the description below in case you want to check it out. But I just add some fresh mix like this, ensuring that those exposed roots are fully covered. The last thing you want is your propagation roots to dehydrate, and this is one of the reasons why sometimes your props can fail. It's because they originally grew water roots, so they need to stay moist, not suffocated. And I'll get to that later on in the video, why it's important to have an airy aerated mix, not just, keeping it waterlogged or wet all the time. It's important to have air in your mix or air pockets. For those cuttings that you're seeing here in frame, I'm just putting it back to root. These did not have roots to my liking. Okay, so what I want to show you all next is how I get starter plants going, and primarily how I minimize transplant shock to just ensure a successful propagation. The goal is to not suffocate your roots, so I halfway fill these 3-inch pots with soil, and I always plant multiple cuttings in a pot so that in the long run, a full or a lush plant display with multiple trails can be established. I backfilled, and hopefully, in the long run, each of those cuttings can turn into its individual vine, and there's about 1 inch of room to the top to avoid smothering with soil. Okay, and the last demonstration before we get into the tour is me showing you how I'm gonna root these bare vines, a method that I use from time and time again. A quick hack is if you don't have gardening pins, I just use paper clips, and I just create this formation like a hairpin to pin those vines down. Okay, so I start by untangling the vines, and I establish the longest one first, and I start wrapping this with the vine as close to the soil as possible. So I place it around any foliage, and I ensure that the vine itself makes contact with the soil. And here's where the pins or your paper clips come in handy to secure the vines as best as possible so they don't pop out of the soil. Now, bear in mind, I'm going to backfill this after to ensure that they really don't come out. So I just wind the vine as many times as possible. The ultimate goal is to ensure that your nodes, which is where your roots are going to grow, are all going to be submerged in the soil so that we have a soil propagation going in this instance. So at this point, I think I've maxed out my surface area. I've wrapped as many vines as I could and secured it with the pins. There's probably a dozen or more pins in there, but these are plastic coated, by the way, so you don't have to worry about them rusting and stuff. Over time, it will rust, but for I guess a good 6 months to a year, even I've had pins in pots with no problems in terms of rusting. They tend to break before they rust anyway, so you don't have to worry about, contaminating your plants with rust or, creating any sort of harmful living situation for the roots. But yeah, so I'm going to backfill now so that the nodes that we've just pinned down can be properly covered to give us the best chance of new roots and hopefully new shoots sooner than later. If you've tried this method before, please comment below and let us know how it's been working for you. I've been doing this for years, and I swear by it. I really find it's such a quick fix for balding Scindapsus. And just like that, we're done with this one. I'm taking a cutting here, and probably in my September plant shows, you'll see me propagate multiple plants at a time, but I'm just going to set this aside to water next. To ensure the highest success rate or in keeping with making sure your cuttings have the best chance to survive and grow into that lush plant we all love, I always ensure that the first watering contains great white. This helps to prevent trauma and encourages those cuttings to gain resilience and become robust while they acclimate to the new potting situation. I don't only use this for Scindapsus, I use this for all my plants. You'll see me watering my Epipremnum and Placymum silver. This is a Syngonium. So it works across the board, and I highly recommend integrating it into your plant chores. This is a great segue just to re-emphasize the importance of balancing your water to air ratio in your soil. Roots need a certain amount of air in the soil because that's how they carry out respiration to ensure that they have enough energy to grow. Essentially, the roots use oxygen to break down the sugars created by photosynthesis in the leaves through cellular respiration, so it's critical to have that air balance. Without sufficient oxygen, the roots weaken, rot, or even die, which leads to yellowing leaves and stunted growth above ground. And finally, poor aeration favors harmful anaerobic microbes that can produce toxins and kill off those beautiful propagations. And in the long run, your plant may not make it. And that's it for now in terms of my recommendations for getting your propagations going. Let's get into the tour next. And that's a wrap on this video. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking it out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. It'll really help out my channel. And here's a sneak preview of what's to come. I'm hoping to redo my potting station, having gotten my greenhouse all sorted out. If you have any video suggestions for me, please feel free to comment below. I respond to all my comments in general, but I really take to heart what you guys request. So thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.